We are getting information from Israeli sources that the Ayatollah is dead. This is breaking news again coming from Israeli sources that the Ayatollah, the supreme leader of Iran, is dead. Again, we're going to go to Jeremy Diamond. Jeremy, the strikes coming this morning that were targeting senior leadership. That's what we knew. Targeting senior leadership there in Iran. And now we can say from Israeli sources that the Ayatollah of Iran, the supreme leader, is dead. What more are you learning there in Israel?
That's right, Jessica. Two Israeli sources telling me and my colleague Tal Shalev that Israel has confirmed that the supreme leader of Iran, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, has been killed as a result of those Israeli strikes that took place earlier today. One of these sources saying that Israel actually has photographic evidence of Khamenei showing his dead body. The second source told me that an official announcement is in the works, although it is possible that the Israelis will allow President Trump and the United States to make this announcement officially. But this is enormous breaking news here that the Israeli government is confirming that the supreme leader of Iran was killed in Israeli strikes earlier today. This is a day that many Israeli government officials have hoped would come eventually. It is also, we should note, a day that many Iranian dissidents, Iranian protesters had hoped would eventually come. And indeed, it has come now. And it is an earth-shattering moment for the Middle East and for the future of Iran. We should note, however, that the supreme leader's death is not necessarily indicative of the Iran regime collapsing altogether. This regime is not based off of one person alone. It is a system that is multi-layered, and we know that the supreme leader understood very well that he could potentially be targeted for assassination should the United States and Israel choose to carry out massive strikes on Iran as they did today. And in recent weeks and months, he has been preparing for potential lines of succession should that actually take place. Now, we are still waiting, of course, for any confirmation from the United States as well as to the supreme leader having been killed. But two Israeli sources familiar with the matter telling us now that the supreme leader was killed in Israeli strikes today. One last note on this is that we have also been hearing about the division of labor between the United States and Israel as it pertains to these strikes. U.S. officials have been...
So many dynamics there, but again, as Jeremy notes, not a straight line to regime change. This is a piece of it, but it is a big piece of it. This is enormous news. Jeremy, I want you to stand by because we have seen those missiles that have been coming to Israel throughout the day. So stay with us. I do want to bring Jim Sciutto back in. Jim, this is very big news. And again, Jeremy, it is. And so help people understand, contextualize for them that what this means, that Iran's supreme leader has been killed in these strikes by the U.S. and Israel.
These strikes are now officially decapitation strikes, right? Strikes that were intended via Israeli military action, to be clear, to take out Iran's most senior leadership. And the man you see there, Ali Khamenei, is Iran's most senior leader with enormous, certainly political power in that country, but also religious authority in that country. The structure of Iranian government being that, yes, it has a president elected, but the supreme leader lies at the top of the government. And that is that man you see speaking there, which Israeli sources are now telling CNN was killed in these strikes. Again, to my point earlier, Jessica, prior to this morning, there'd been an enormous amount of speculation as to just how far the U.S. was willing to go, but Israel as well, if they were striking together. And now we know they were willing to go as far as taking out Iran's most senior leader. Now, we had reported earlier that he was not the only target of these strikes, that other senior military and other leaders in Iran were targeted. We don't know their status at this point, but as we reported earlier in the day, Israeli officials were becoming more confident over time today that they had hit at least some of their targets. That listen, in Iran, does that mean that suddenly there will be a new government, a new leader, one friendlier to the U.S.? No, an enormous network and structure of leadership and power remains in that country, military, economic, political, and otherwise. But to take out the supreme leader is a significant change. And of course, the question is, how far does that change go? Does it weaken the government to the degree that the government collapses? Does it weaken it to a degree that the protesters that we saw take on this government quite bravely in recent weeks are inspired to go out into the streets again, right? I mean, that's what President Trump was encouraging them to do explicitly in a statement this morning. Now, that's quite a risky proposition, given that government retains enormous power, and they showed they were willing to use it to deadly extent in the many thousands of protesters that they killed in recent weeks. Those are still the open questions, but we have one question answered. Was Israel willing to go so far as to take out the supreme leader of Iran? And the answer is yes, and they had success doing so.
Right. And now the big question is what comes next? Jim
Yeah.
Sciutto, stand by. I want to bring in Barak Ravid, CNN political and global affairs analyst. He's also a global affairs correspondent at Axios. Barak, I know you spoke with President Trump earlier today. Again, if you are just joining us, our breaking news is that Iran's supreme leader has been killed in these strikes. That is coming from Israeli sources. Barak, we're still waiting to hear from the president, from the U.S. government, but the Israeli sources confirming that. What more are you learning? What did the president tell you?
So first, just about Khamenei, I think around 30, 40 minutes ago, the Israeli ambassador to Washington, Yechiel Leiter, updated several U.S. officials and members of Congress that Israeli intelligence shows that Khamenei has been killed and his body was taken out of the rubble in the compound in Tehran that was attacked. I spoke to President Trump a little bit before 1 p.m. While he was in Mar-a-Lago. We spoke for around 5 minutes. The president sounded, to me at least, pretty calm and confident that things are going according to plan. I think the situation with Khamenei was one of the main things he was tracking at that moment. And what was interesting in what he told me is that I asked him, how long is this going to continue? And he said, I have several off-ramps. I can go long and take the whole thing, meaning take over Iran, something that, I don't think that's something that is seriously being considered.
That's quite a statement, yeah.
Yeah. Or I can go on for another 2-3 days and then tell the Iranians, we'll see you again in a few years if you try and rebuild your nuclear program, your missile program, meaning that Donald Trump, at least my impression from the conversation with him, is that he's looking to end this thing within a few days and basically put an ultimatum to the Iranians. We can get a deal, or you can try and rebuild your program, and then we'll just bomb you again if you try to do this. And I think that was one of the messages that U.S. officials that just briefed reporters, I think 10 minutes ago, said that when the 12-day war ended after Operation Midnight Hammer, the U.S. told Iran, if you try to rebuild, we will come again. And those U.S. officials said that the Iranians, according to U.S. intelligence, did try and rebuild the program. So we know from satellite imagery that the Iranians started infrastructure work in several of the nuclear sites that were attacked in June. We do not know whether they really tried to resume a nuclear program, meaning enrichment and other activities. One of the interesting things I heard from President Trump is that he told me that he thinks that Operation Midnight Hammer allowed Operation Epic Fury to go forward. Because President Trump claimed that if he did not go on that operation last June, if he did not order a strike on those 3 nuclear facilities, Iran would have been much, much closer to a nuclear weapon, maybe even have a nuclear weapon by now, according to what President Trump said, and that would make the current operation much harder, maybe even impossible.
Prophetic burden. Have you got that? Then I'm praying also. There is another shot I saw. I saw big shots dying with the elephants. Big shots were dying with the elephants. I saw lions, elephants. There was a buffalo. There is also this other animal which is called what is omusege? This other the wolf. The wolf was moving to eat the dead animals, but I stood in between and the wolf didn't eat. The Spirit told me, very many big people whom we hear in religions, whom we hear in our faith, whom we hear in government, this is their last year. I would mention 3 names, but for the glory of spiritual maturity and prophecy, I reserve the names. I talked to them in the spirit. They were not responding, but they were like lions, but a dead lion. In the Catholic faith, by the grace of God, I don't speak the names. Too many in the government were just dying like insects. Prophetic burden.
You're fighting for the money. You're fighting for our life.
He told foreign machineries they were fighting for money while he was fighting for his life.
Hey, quickly.
It turns out that was the most prophetic thing Willie Ngoma ever said, because 1 year later, a drone locked onto his coordinates and Willie was no more. So how did the M23 spokesman go from internet celebrity to the most hunted man in the DRC? It involves a laundry list of war crimes, a very expensive drone program, and a fatal miscalculation. In early February 2025, just as the M23 rebels were busy rewriting the map of eastern Congo by capturing Goma, Willie decided to step in front of a camera and staged the most gloriously theatrical expulsion of foreign machineries the Congo has ever seen. In the footage, we see the M23 spokesman ordering around wide-eyed machineries from Colombia, Romania, and beyond, who had allegedly been hired to reinforce the Congolese army.
Don't joke to M23, my bro. Don't joke. That is army for the people. Don't joke. Don't joke. Move. Quickly. Jump. Quickly. Hey, quickly.
To M23 supporters, the footage was pure digital adrenaline because an African commander was publicly giving orders to foreign fighters, flipping a script many on the continent know too well, where outsiders have long dictated terms on African soil.
N'amenez pas les aventures ici au Congo. Tu as compris? On extermine une catégorie de la population. On mange même leur chair humaine. $8 000. Un soldat congolais touche moins de $100.
But the internet, of course, loved it. The clip went viral, transforming Ngoma into an instant celebrity among M23 supporters.
Okay.
However, while he was busy curating his brand as a resistance icon, he had forgotten the first rule of the jungle. If you stick your head up, it gets blown off. The clip had humiliated the entire Congolese government, its president, its army, and most dangerously, its foreign backers, who had spent millions importing white machineries to do what the Congolese army couldn't.
What is the experience in Goma?
Our experience, we were just working there as instructors for the army. So,
Are you mercenaries?
No, instructors.
And that's the thing about wartime visibility. It doesn't just make you famous, it makes you findable. You see, Ngoma's enemies didn't need to invent reasons to want him gone. They already had a file. By the time that video made him a household face in the conflict, he had been sanctioned by the European Union since December 2022 and listed by the United Nations Security Council since at least 2024 under resolutions tied to undermining peace in the DRC. Now, the sanctions didn't accuse him of being merely an internet sensation. The charges were a laundry list of horrors: fueling instability, involvement in killings and abductions, and looting communities, recruiting child soldiers, sexual violence, and sustaining a parallel war economy financed through illegal mineral taxation and weapons network.
We are a Congolese army. We are Congolese. We fight for a fair and noble cause. We are Congolese. We are not helped by Rwanda.
No, let's stop that.
In other words, he had swallowed far more than he could chew, and the bill was piling up.
Donc, il traverse directement la frontière rwandaise. Donc, pour aller chez eux.
By February 2026, exactly 1 year after his internet stardom, President Felix Tshisekedi had stopped relying on sleepless nights and started relying on air superiority. The Congolese government had invested heavily in drone technology, looking to end the cat and mouse game in the dense forests of the east. One hotspot was Rubaya in Masisi territory, North Kivu. Strategic not only because it sits on contested ground, but because it is rich in coltan and other minerals, the kind of resources that turn conflict into an economy. Willy Ngoma had reportedly been in and around that region for months, taking refuge in the area, likely thinking the rugged terrain would keep him safe. But you can't hide from the skies. On Tuesday, February 24th, 2026, the drones arrived. A Congolese army drone strike hit rebel position in Rubaya. Several M23 fighters were reportedly killed. Among them, according to regional security sources, was Willy Ngoma, the viral spokesman, the sanction-listed figure, the man whose voice had become a brand. The aftermath, predictably, was a tale of two cities. M23 supporters and critics of the government mourned him as a brave soldier, a martyr taken out in a violation of the ceasefire that only escalates the struggle.
Civil society sources had reported heavy fighting in several localities near Rubaya since Sunday. Hundreds of families have been forced to flee. The Tuesday pre-dawn attack that killed M23 spokesperson Willy Ngoma targeted a spot that has in recent weeks served as an enclave for the M23 rebels, according to residents. Rubaya, a key coltan mining town in eastern DRC, produces approximately 15% of global supply and is also a key financial stronghold for the M23 rebels.
Et donc, dans un contexte où le 1-23...
VM23 relies heavily on the Rubaya mine to keep itself financially afloat. Losing Rubaya and the decapitation of Willy Ngoma would be a hard blow to the rebellion.
Un vrai coup pour la rébellion.
The attack also comes at a time when Qatar-mediated ceasefire efforts are underway in Doha, where the DRC government and the M23 signed ceasefire agreements. Both parties have been trading accusations of violating the terms of the truce. Experts say Ngoma's killing might further strain ongoing peace efforts.
L'autre conséquence, ça peut être...
The other consequence may be the radicalization of the rebellion, as they have long decried Kinshasa's violation of the ceasefire. So the assassination or death of their leader could be a
senior member. I think Willy Ngoma is one of the most senior officials of M23 who has been killed so far. And they are hoping that, this sends a message to other members of the M23 rebels to stop this fighting. But according to a statement that has been circulating on social media, the M23 rebels expressed very consternation about this killing and said that they are informing the national and international community about this constant violation by the Kinshasa authorities of a ceasefire agreement, and that they will, take action, make sure that Kinshasa officials pay dearly for this attack on one of their senior members. So we're waiting to see what the government here will pronounce in the coming days. We are likely to see an escalation of the fighting before, the guns fall silent, because the M23 have repeatedly been saying that if their positions are attacked, they will go back and deal with that threat at the source. They go to places, attack. Recently, they attacked an airport in the northwestern city of Kisangani. They were saying that is the center where the DRC has deployed the drones. The drones are being operated from that area, and they're saying these drones are bombarding areas that are populated by civilians and their fighters. So they have always been, hitting back very, very hard. So we are likely to see an escalation of fighting. There are people who are, behind the scenes calling on the United States, Qatar and African Union to step up, the diplomacy to try and de-escalate this threat that, has become very, very imminent because of the killing of Willy Ngoma. There is a team of UN peacekeepers that has been deployed to the city of Uvira, and they have also been joined by members of an intergovernmental body known as the International Conference of the Great Lakes region to kind of prepare the ground for this ceasefire monitoring.
There's tension, but they will not do anything. They will not do. They will talk. Incite violence. Show power. Speak stronger words. But they will leave us the way we are. The president will remain the president. I know some of you don't want to listen to the thing because you have been praying and fasting for this man to go, but he's still very alive. Let me just assure you, unless you see the spirit more than I do, but if you don't and you have come to be led, then I am the prophet.
Post-election situation in Uganda and threats against opposition leader Bobi Wine.
Omukago gwa Bulaaya bwe gumu ku mikago egyalondoola akalulu ka 2026 n'okusingira ddala ku mutendera gw'obwa pulezidenti. Mu bbanga ttono lyetwakakuba amabega, Paalamenti y'omukago gwa Bulaaya ekubaganyiza ebirowoozo ku ngeri akalulu ka Uganda gye katambulamu, era balumiriza nti ebitatambula bulungi byali bingi ddala bye bavumiridde.
Mass arrests, violence, attacks on journalists, the shutdown of civil society, an internet blackout, and killings of unarmed civilians. Just unacceptable, and Europe cannot accept this. Opposition leaders are being persecuted, elections are being stolen. We must review our cooperation with Uganda.
January 15th in Uganda, the so-called elections were not an election. They were a military operation, and the facts confirm it.
Bano balaze n'obutali bumativu ku nsonga za Kyagulanyi aliira ku nsiko oluvannyuma lw'akalulu.
After the elections, he is under siege.
Soldiers acting on direct
We are going to start dialogue, reconciliation, and all those who do not have any case will get out. They will get out.
Ekibiina kya NUP mu kuyita mwogezi waakyo ate nga yakulira oludda oluvuganya gavumenti mu Parliament Joe Ssenyonyi agamba nti gavumenti bazze bagiteeka ku nninga ku nsonga zino naye nga yeefudde kyesirikidde.
Ensonga zino tuzanjula mu Parliament banzanjula ng'agamba nedda loopusi kituufu abantu balina emisango naye kaakati akkiriza era ffe tugamba nti abantu baffe bonna abaasibibwa byabufuzi tolaba bamaze emyaka 5